Hello, hello. This is the show womenintech and your host Lisa. Welcome to the show and please welcome also my guest Isabelle Hüther, design leader and mentor. Hi Isabelle, how is it going today?
Good. I'm super excited to be here with you today and hopefully share a little bit of my journey with you, with the followers, and maybe some wisdom so people don't need to make the same mistakes that I did.
All right. So I just mentioned that you're a design leader, but I'm really curious how your ordinary day looks like. What do you do on a daily basis?
So if I think back to an ordinary day as a head of design, there is no such thing. I would say the only constant that a day would have is lots of meetings, many meetings, because essentially you are the fluid of communication. You have to bring people together. You have to have difficult conversations. Sometimes they are a little bit more loud and energetic than you would like them to be. An ordinary day consists of design advocacy and basically bringing people together. You have to organize obviously things like what Figma licenses do we have, what models do we use. You don't sit on a throne of Figma files and governance documents like people might think. It's really about the empathy that you show towards not only the users but also your team, right? And you want to create an atmosphere of psychological safety where people enjoy coming to work and really have the ability to focus on creating experiences for users that are inclusive, welcoming, and maybe even fun, right?
That's what we would really strive for.
That would be ideal, yeah. But for that to work, you need to build a team that is diverse and inclusive as well, right? Because you can't have the perspective on the product when you only have one vision of, let's say, white males, right? So you want to build your team as inclusive and diverse as possible. So we have different angles looking at the product and understanding our customers as well, because a customer might say A and B and our team only hears A, right? So this is something that I'm trying to focus on when building homogeneous teams, that they work well together, but that we also have things covered like different ethnicities, different perspectives, different age groups is so crucial. There's such a bias against older designers, right? And that's absolutely unfortunate because they have such an important perspective and they are the ones who have the ability to adopt to a different environment because they've been there for a while, right? They had to adopt new software and new technology, and those are the people we don't want on our teams? I don't think so.
Yeah, definitely we want them, of course. It also sounds like the team that reflects the diversity of user needs and the psychology of users should be also diverse.
Yeah.
Because that's the balance that we can maintain that way. It's already great insight right away. And you said there is no such thing as ordinary day of a head of design. Sometimes the role consists of a few hats. The head of mentor, the head of leader, visionary, just the executor of a person who can give tips how to do that in the best way. Have you ever thought about the role in that way, and what can you also add to this?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. You need to be able to move smoothly on different dance floors. I think in leadership, they always have this metaphor that you need to be able to be on the balcony and the oversight, but you also need to be able to be on the dance floor and do the dance, right? The designers look to you for guidance. You need to be able to sit through a design critique session and share your knowledge, share your experience, but not dictate the solution, right? You're there to ask questions, to nudge into a direction, to remind people, hey, this is something that we've already tried. You know, we have this research, but you also need to be able to be on this balcony level with C-level, with other, let's say, engineering leads, and have a discussion about broader topics. And this is most often where the political level comes in, and you really have to show a different face head. And this is the crucial part that many people don't focus on when they become leaders. You need a certain energy, you need a certain calmness, and be sure in yourself to go into these discussions with other leaders and C-level especially. You will encounter some people that have very, very strong opinions, and let's be honest, it is not easy, right? And you will have to have discussions that are absolutely uncomfortable for yourself as a person, but you need to remove yourself a little bit from it because it's an important discussion to have. Wearing these different hats is something that you're not taught really in this journey of becoming a manager and then head off and then wherever your career takes you. You know your craft, and then you are promoted into a role of a manager. That's most often the journey. Sometimes the company is nice and actually gives you some leadership training, but you need to do a lot of work on your own. Make sure that you have the security in yourself, this calmness, and this is honestly something that takes time. You have people who move into these roles and seem like they have it naturally, right? Or they are very outgoing, extroverted. This is because they have done already a lot of work on themselves, right? They know themselves. They understand how they react in stressful situations, so they can go into these discussions and actually stay calm and focused on the topic. And that is one of the features that I always try to point out. And if I speak to mentees and I spot it in people, and I'm like, okay, this is something that can be developed, like might push you into this role and give you the help you need to really learn the skill a little bit more. But yeah, different hats, absolutely. It's crucial that you go into these roles and know that you will have to play pretend for a while.
Varying and transitioning from one hat to another is definitely something that people can learn, and it's not easy. How does that work for you? Transition from one role, from one hat to another during the day? Do you come to your work day knowing that today I'm having one-on-one with this person, and it's better to act as a coach, and with another one I'm going to be a strong manager or something like that?
So it's going a little bit into what kind of leadership style do you have, right? And I don't really like to put myself in boxes, but I've also done a few leadership seminars where you actually have to do this task and DISC and whatever the methods are. So for me, the result was always situational. My leadership style is situational. And this is how I approach these topics. So when I go look at my calendar in the morning and see, I have lots of high-level meetings with C-level people, I try to understand what type of person am I meeting today? How do they need the information be presented to them so they can make their decisions? So I can get from them what I need to continue my workday. So I try to tailor my message to the audience that I'm talking to, right? I might have new design that I need an approval to do some more research on, or whatever it is that I want. I'm not just going to go show this new design to them like I would maybe with some designers. I'm going to instead focus on some KPIs that this new design would push and say, look, this is what we are expecting. We're expecting to see an absolute raise in the conversion rate, whatever it is that we're talking about. And I just need a resource A and B, or time or money to make this happen, right? And this is the way that I get my yes or my approval a lot quicker than when I just say, look at this pretty design. You need to focus on how do you present the information and what is the situation? Is the person I'm talking to even in the mind space of making this decision right now? So even when the call is scheduled and I have written an agenda, I was like, this is the stuff I'm going to talk about. This is something I actually need an answer from you. There's always the time and space for decisions. And sometimes you go on these calls and it's not happening. You have the feeling this person is not really listening. They're stressed. So I need to make a decision. I can feel it. I say, okay, here's the information. I can tell you're in a rush. Please go to your next meeting. Have a look at those numbers. I'm going to email you my question. Can you get back to me by the end of the day. And I'm much more likely to get an approval this way because I haven't stressed them out even further. I didn't waste their time. I respected their day, so to say. This is, I would say, situational leadership. Just take the situation in and make your judgment based on this. It's a lot of experience, I have to admit, to make this work. And obviously I make mistakes too. But that is my best approach at the moment that I'm running with.
It's okay to make mistakes. This is also the path to learn more. I'm wondering, with your leadership style, is a very useful skill to scan the room, to understand what is the situation right now with the person you want to convince in something or just get some approval from. And overall, how would you describe your leader style when it comes also to communicating with your team and sometimes communicating the decisions of the team to the people that are stakeholders or decision makers?
So let me go back a little bit to the very first question of, is there an ordinary day? No, there's not, but the way that you set up your department is already crucial. And for me, I have been in my past 5 years as head of design, I have always been the highest instance in design. And I had the opportunity to actually be part of OKR formulation, essentially for the business. And this way I can ensure that the business goals already have this design thought implemented somewhere, right? Maybe I even get my own OKR for design. That depends on the company. And if I have these overarching goals, it is my task as a head of design to break them down for my department and make them actionable. It's also a great motivator for my designers, my researchers, my graphic designers, UX writers to be able to see that every little design increment has a direct impact on the overall success of the company. And so I break those goals down, I make them actionable. Most of the goals are very numbers driven, financial goals. So we need to reach this fictional number. Most of the time very ambitious as well. And you're like, oh, how can I even contribute as a designer? You're like, it's so abstract. And it's my task to do this, to help you see this as an actionable goal and also tie this to actual user insights, right? So what can we do for the user to reach this financial goal?
Connecting all the dots from all the departments and information that you have, basically.
Yeah. And the second part to this is the communication. Like you just said, you need to make sure that everybody is on board. You need to make sure that everybody understands where we're going. And by breaking down these goals a little bit further, it's much easier for you to have this conversation on different levels because you have this North Star, you have the goals inside, maybe a mission statement for the company where you can always align design decisions up to the very small decisions on like atomic level, right, in the design system. And this way you can establish a form of communication in your whole team for everybody to contribute. And if this is the case, you also have established something that is, in my eyes, absolutely crucial for a high functioning team. Psychological safety. If you have this, everybody feels like their voice is important and their voice should be heard. So they contribute their ideas. Nobody's afraid to propose something. So it's crucial to have a shared goal, have a good communication strategy, and really listen to your people. Listen to their fears, wishes, their concerns.
Just your experience.
Absolutely. And I would say this is a good basis for that.
Yeah, to be a good listener and communicator, which flows both ways, towards the team and of course towards the stakeholders and users.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Isabelle, for sharing that. I really love to talk also about your career path, meaning that abstractly, I guess every designer asks themselves a question: what is my career going to look like in 5 years? Or what do you want to be in 5 years? What do I want in general from my career? And there are perhaps two dominating ideas of that. The first one, moving on with your career ladder vertically, so becoming every year, 2 years, better junior designer than a middle designer, senior, team lead, and so on, and horizontal development, where you stay perhaps as a middle or senior designer, but covering more and more areas of design. It may be also motion design, research, and so on. Like there are many of those. And I wonder, what was your career ladder so far? How did you get to the being design leader? If you had any tips for designers who are like asking that question and still do not have the straightforward answer.
My career has started very hands-on. I was an apprentice at an agency here in Berlin. And to be honest, the apprenticeship was difficult. The stuff they taught you in school, absolutely useless. You have to go through this if you do the apprentice as Mediengestalter. You have to do it, unfortunately. The practical experience that I gathered, it was only possible because I had a great mentor in the agency where I was working. I was working on big clients, BMW, Nivea, in the very beginning. Like, I applied to this apprenticeship with one UI design, an absolutely horrible UI design. And the agency still gave me a chance. So go out and talk to people once you're starting your career. If you go to university, that's a different level. You have to talk to somebody else about this. But if you're starting out as an apprentice, I can only recommend get yourself out there. Just start playing around with the software. And from this point onwards, because I got my A level, I was able to skim it down to 2 years of actual apprenticeship. And afterwards, I became a freelancer and was basically very curious and ignorant, and I don't know where this confidence came from, but I became a freelancer and I worked with different agencies, smaller corporations, larger corporations as well, and just was curious where design can actually have an impact. Like, I didn't really research this before, right? I was diving into it. But after this, I started also to be employed as a art director, also shooting some videos and photo shoots and stuff like this. So completely different field to this agency work that I did before. So I was in-house. I was responsible for everything because it was a startup. So I coordinated these shoots. I focused and worked on the actual product, right, which was legal tech. And we did a fantastic job in the time we worked on it. We were a small team, really good team, short communication ways. We didn't have any design principles or anything. There was nothing there. It was a startup. And this is the situation that many of the listeners will probably find themselves in as well. It is absolutely scary. And you have to have this, I see a problem, I fix the problem attitude for this to actually work and to actually be able to survive it as well, because there's so much coming in, and because you want to progress the product and want to produce something for the users that is of actual value, you just need to do it. And if you can't fix the problem, you have to find somebody to fix the problem, right? This is the thing that I can recommend to everybody who's interested in working in a startup. If you have this attitude, you will be very successful. So this was the beginning of my journey. We were very successful, by the way, got bought up by our biggest competitor after a year. So that definitely worked. And afterwards, I had the chance to join Salesforce. And at Salesforce, it's a completely different ball game. And I was a design consultant working on projects all across Europe. It was very fun, but a lot of hard work as well. I have to admit that. But I met some absolutely talented people. And when I say talented, I don't mean they woke up like this and were naturally good at things. When I say talented, I really mean they have put a lot of work in. They have done the hours. They have really read all of the books, watched videos, and really worked with their mentors to be good at it. And so I gathered this experience at Salesforce and also saw how beneficial it can be to have a person in leadership that has a design background, because it's just the way they think, they approach topics, makes it so much easier for the people on the other side who are doing the delivery work, because they can focus on that delivery piece, because they don't need to be involved in any political stuff, or they can really just focus on their task. And this was when I wanted to become that person after my Salesforce time. And I learned so much. I made so many mistakes, and I think it's crucial for you to do that as well. There are different categories of mistakes to make. There are stupid mistakes. Maybe let's avoid those. Because I am a designer at heart, I follow the fail fast approach anyway. And I try to achieve something. It doesn't work this way. Let's find another way. right? And this is this attitude that in my eyes has propelled me so far, because I'm still here. I'm still going and sharing what I know. I want to encourage people to try, right? And to make their own mistakes. And curiosity is a big part. If you don't always ask questions, I tell it to every person that goes into an interview, you should have more questions ready than the person is asking you. Go into it, mention it in the beginning. So I'm ready. I research your company. I have about 35 questions. I group them in 4 categories. Where do you want me to start?
A prepared person, and you show the interest so much that the company guys also would be curious about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. So that's wonderful. The designers out there who are now on their path currently, considering that the market has changed a lot. As I mentioned, there are at least 2 concepts of the way how designers can move on with a career and feel fulfilled that way. What are the right questions that designers should ask themselves to be in charge of their career, if possible?
To be honest, I never had something like a proper strategy. I felt after being somewhat pushed into my first leadership role at Salesforce that for some reason it comes naturally, and I'm curious about how I can become this good manager for the people that I lead. But I was so scared to not be enough for my people or not be helpful that I sought out so many courses and read books and and I still buy so many management books, and you don't even have time to read all of them. I really want to make sure that I have this knowledge that it takes to be actually helpful. And so if people have a strategy or a 5-year plan, I absolutely respect that. I didn't have that. For me, it fell into place by being pushed into it in the first Salesforce by my mentors and even by my boss. He encouraged me to do this and to lead projects and stuff. If you have this 5-year plan, it is really crucial, looking at this market right now, that you have the skill to be adaptable, because things are changing so fast now. You need to be faster. You need to learn so much more in shorter amount of time. If you're willing to do this and to stay up to date and you don't need to learn everything down to the core and understand and program your own AI or whatever it is that you're looking into, but you need to make sure that you understand what is crucial when developing a new experience or product. The thing that I always say to my mentees on my calls is, you are still a human building, designing, developing something for another human. What tools you use is completely up to you and might differ from company to company. Some people have licenses for that, others have licenses for that. But you need to keep in mind that you are designing something for a different person. And this is something where you can use your people always call them soft skills. I don't like this word, but you need to show empathy, understanding. You need to really focus on are we actually solving the right problem here? And you need to have this courage to actually speak up for the users. And this will not change. This will be also relevant in, let's say, 10 years now. So this is still something that we will need in the future when things are different. So adaptability, courage, and curiousness.
Absolutely.
That help.
Yeah, being curious and about the exponentially growing tech, and also empathetic towards your users. And that's something that AI cannot do. And this is our time to shine as designers. And in the beginning of your answer, you dropped such a good phrase, a good manager. It's when you've been talking about how your mentor and boss encourage you to take the leadership, it sounded actually quite a cool opportunity to me, and perhaps also a good way to managing people and encouraging them to go to the areas where they have the potential. And at the same time, many designers to whom I also speak, sometimes they actually come across the manager who would block their growth in so many ways that it's also difficult to recognize and to reflect on. Mm-hmm. For example, the managers who would cancel the one-on-ones and even ignoring the any, I don't know, questions that the designer might have. Or vice versa, just the opposite, micromanaging the designer and giving the task or pushing the agenda on them so that they can push the same agenda to the team they are a part of. And maybe the nightmare that I can imagine is the manager who's setting very ambitious goals and saying you have to do that if you want to grow, be a good designer, step into the next title. And at the same time, when all the evidences are on the table of the accomplishments, managers would be like, no, it's not enough. Is fostering the imposter syndrome and the feeling of I'm never gonna be enough, at least here with this manager or at this company. And I'm telling you all of that not only to be honest and share it, I also want to ask you from your perspective, what are the key ingredients of being a good manager towards the team and of course at the company?
That's a good question. I want to start by saying there is a very, very fine line between manipulation and empowerment. And I think a good manager always sits on the side of empowerment rather than manipulation. There are different scenarios. So I don't think there is a perfect manager. When I think about all of the people that I look up to that have managed me or gave me advice, they all have this thing in common that gave me the feeling that whatever I'm struggling with, whatever I'm working on is valid. And I felt listened to. And even though I say I was pushed into this direction, it was always something that I have already done. They pointed out to me, like, look, this is what happened in this scenario, and you reacted in this way. This was very successful, and the project was progressing faster. They always made sure to point out my actions and focus on this and not say, oh, you still lack this, or this is missing. They're more encouraging and saying, I also have this material. If you're interested, this might help you in this scenario. So they were always more providing, but not dictating. This is something that I personally enjoy a lot. Obviously, there are other people who really want to be told what to do, and there's no shame in this. So there are different ways to be a good manager. As I said in the beginning, for me, the situational leadership is really something that has helped me to at least move myself, my own perception of my leadership into this empowerment area over the manipulation. But if you're faced with a manager who does this, it's really helpful to have a leveling guide in place, for example. For everybody who doesn't know what that is a document that clearly shows the expectations towards your seniority. So I'm a junior designer, and in these hard skills or in these areas, we expect A, B, and C of you. And if you want to move to the next stage, here's a list of things that we expect for this to happen, right? So it's a transparent communication of what your progression can look like. That is something that can help. So you can work with your rather manipulative manager and say, look, I'm already fulfilling these things here. I want to talk about my progression in our next development talk. The other things that we do way too little is celebrate the success and sit back and think, wow, I set out to do this and that actually worked. Well done me, right? Yeah. That is something that I do myself way too little. And I'm always like, okay, this is done now, let's move on. And this is quite stressful. So you have to take some time and say, I've actually already accomplished quite a lot. Even though I might not be at the end goal of some people's strategy, it's good to take that time. So this would be my advice for people who are stuck with a manipulative manager in this situation.
And with this part of asking manager expectations to be more specific, that definitely would help. I also wonder that sometimes the competency map can be broad. It can be also covering the whole company or the list of departments, and design can be just a part of them. And therefore, the judgments can be quite subjective. It's more like, as a senior designer, you have to lead the initiatives, contribute to that, and the other expectations. How would I, as a designer who want to step into the senior role and see this competency map, be more empowered, show those facts and my accomplishments, tailor to the competency map to my manager, so that he can also see the situation from my angle. Is there any way to be more specific? Let's specify for the next 1 year, if I would lead 2 initiatives, these are the examples of those, and maybe achieve that kind of KR or KPI. Would it help from your angle if you are dealing with the manager who also likes to twist facts or referring not to the facts but rather to the feeling? And then as a designer you feel quite it's just the world, it's just only my reality and actually the other perspective of reality from my manager's side.
So I would say a skill that is very, very crucial during any career is learn to pick your battles. And this is what I read from the scenario that you just described. Do I even have a chance to succeed here? What are my actual options? And if you already have a very objective leveling guide progression document, you have pointed out really tangible steps that you want to take that would absolutely end up in the promotion. You have tried this. You have maybe involved a third person so they can see the facts as well, right? You maybe loop in somebody from HR team or from a different manager or whoever it is, right? Who objectively looks at the facts. You have done all of these things. Be realistic with yourself. Maybe it's not the time to be here anymore. This is very difficult situation to be in, and I've been in this situation myself in my career, where you feel like you're making progress but your progress is diminished or like not recognized properly. It is super painful to be stuck in this situation, and there we go back to the courage that I mentioned in the beginning. This is also not just for the product, for the users, also for yourself. Yeah. You need to be able to stand up for yourself and say, there is no future for me here. And I much rather focus my energy on going on ADP list, finding a new mentor and updating my CV, and off we go to a different place. Please don't just randomly quit and run away. We don't want to do this, not in this economy.
If you face just some difficulties, like you just pointed out, is the skill of knowing what battle to pick, and perhaps this battle is on your horizon, but if you have any reasons to stay in place, it's I definitely like what you're saying. It's also very liberating, and being rational about the opportunities you can have at the company and with leadership style that you're facing. And at the same time, it's just invest in yourself. That would be a good strategy for a while, and find the better opportunity when it's possible.
Absolutely. And there's also nothing wrong with it if you're not being promoted to senior in the next year. You can grow your skills and do certifications on things, or teach somebody else in your team, because this is teaching you leadership skills. You can job shadow within the company. There are other options you can do to grow, just maybe not on paper. But if you have this goal in mind, I want to be called a senior designer in this company, and you have tried all of these things and it's not possible, then I don't think you should waste your energy there. And it's going to take a big toll on your mental health as well. And not feeling understood, not feeling heard or recognized is some of the worst feelings you can have.
For sure. It's very diminishing, and also messing up with your self-esteem as a designer and as a professional. And we didn't want that. It actually has some consequences in a longer time that you imagine. That situation is not easy. The thing is that many professionals, also designers, might face a similar situation and might go through something similar. And in my experience, reaching out to those people and talking honestly and be be like having friends in the industry that you can share such things. Mentors, coaches might be quite good for your mental health and also for accepting the reality and therefore move forward. I myself for a while sitting as a product designer here and really want to step into the seniority, and this is definitely something that can be acknowledged on paper, and what is even more important, lived through in reality with the skills and experience. Sometimes the title can be quite subjective, and what is objective is your accomplishments, skill set, and also the kind of the mindset that you bring to the room. I asked you this question in the first times when we see each other as a mentor and mentee, and I wanted the audience also listen to it. What would you expect from the senior designer? What is the mindset that shall be adopted and become the part of your personality that would lead you to the fulfilling life as a senior?
No pressure, fulfilling life. Oh my God.
Oh, no, still on us.
yeah, of course. But I get your point. If you have a good mentor or a good boss that you can talk to, having this discussion would, in my eyes, always include finding the real motivator behind you moving into the seniority, or what is it that you're actually interested in? Is it really something more technical? Do you want to be able to be the sole queen of the design systems, or like what kind of seniority are we talking here? Do you still want to be really involved in technical and designs and doing interviews? Are you more interested in managing the designs, right? So, and I'm not talking people management, I'm still talking IC, individual contributor role. But when I look at portfolios, let's say I'm hiring and I'm going through portfolios, through CVs, the things that I look for, I need them to have this understanding that we touched upon earlier already. Every little design increment has an overall impact on the company. And when I go through portfolios, there's a certain structure to them and there's so much information, right? So how do I determine this person knows, this person has what it takes? It's quite simple. You focus on the impact that your design work has on the company. So show me, this is the project, little background information, it's B2C, it's health tech. And then you already show me the KPI because you understand I don't have time to go through your whole case study, read all of the details. No, you respect my time, you show me the information that is crucial for me to make my hiring decision. And if you show me this understanding, this approach of, hey, here is the actual impact that this project had or that I had, I will absolutely invite you to an interview. I'm not going to read the rest of your case study. It's good that it's there. It needs to be there, right? Yeah. But as soon as I spot this is an indicator that this person understands. The other thing that I always look for, and I found that many people are actually surprised by this, is when I go on people's LinkedIn profiles. I read their bio and see if it has certain statements of, I would like to work on products in this area, or I'm curious about this practice. It shows me they have ambitions, they are curious. The thing that is surprising to many is I scroll to the very bottom and I look at recommendations. Not the ones that you have received, the ones you've given. What that does is it shows me you value working with other people. You appreciate them. You know how to point out their good sides. You know how to write a good review. Your communication skills are on point. All of these things are really crucial for me, as I know that you can do the job, right? I've seen your portfolio, the technical skills are there. I see that you understand that every design increment, every design component in the design system has a direct impact. And I also see that your people skills work. You know how to appreciate people, you know how to communicate. And this is a combination. I really value this and I want that person on my team because I know I can rely on them to help me basically achieve the skills for the design department.
Yeah, definitely. I've been wondering what are the features of designers that would make you want to hire them, or that would be catchy for you. And also too, the given recommendations stand out for me as a new piece of information. Also, if a person can gather good recommendations, but also give and be generous there, it shows the skills of companionship and collaboration. And the senior designer has to be not only good at process and at the outcome of design, but also a good collaborator with all sorts of people and colleagues. When I asked this question, I also heard that the senior designer has such a unique competency of seeing the big picture, of seeing what are the tendencies or processes or new updates going on in the product and the cross-functional team and the design team, but also in sales, in support, in all the other chains of this network that we call a company. And if you're ready to spot it, if you're curious and you're observing, you can bring that back to the team, perhaps to you as well, for discussion and to have some plan and connect the dots. That would be also the mindset, the proactivity that you're looking for. Is that right?
Absolutely. I would have included this a little bit in the technical skills, because I would, as you said, expect them to have this oversight, this ability to zoom out and really see where the threads are connected to the rest of the company. It is a big part of the head of design role as well. I don't work on my own, right? I need my team to have eyes and ears everywhere as well. And the more we understand this, the more we actually work hand in hand, the better the outcome will be, not just for our end users, also internally, because if we're making friends with sales and we can help them optimize their sales funnel, they will be so much more willing to adapt our suggestions than when we are like a different department. Let's talk to each other at the Christmas party.
The summer party, and maybe sometimes showing them pretty designs that they cannot understand.
Exactly. This is also the other point of the head of design role, this advocacy that's showing, hey, we're not just making things look pretty here, that this is the department that is there to solve problems. If you come to me from sales and we have an actual discussion about why is the sales funnel like it is, this is such a good relationship that will be so much more beneficial, not just for me as a head of design, but also for the actual designers. And this is something that a senior designer will understand, where a junior person doesn't make this connection right off the bat.
Perhaps it's not even soft skills or technical skills. Sometimes it's something even bigger. This is the part of the mindset, of the attitude that the person comes with, and also the other unique quality and competency that we want to see in designers so much more is the way how they can tell the story, what was going on, what is the impact of something, present that in a way that would be understandable and attractive to the audience, so that the audience can adapt the point of view or the proposal of designers. In our last conversation, just during the good brunch in the cafe, we mentioned that this new competency that was not so prominent 10 years ago or even 5 years ago now is actually a key one. And can you talk a bit more about that, the presentation skills and convincing?
We have always been solving problems for other people, or sometimes for ourselves as well. And because this is plural, other people is always involving a group, a category of people, you need to be able to communicate what you want from them, right? What your expectations are, and listen what their expectations are. So having a person that is able to do this dance and really facilitate the communication between two entities, let's say this product company and the user base, will grow even more. So the technical skills of being able to use Figma will not diminish, but they will change a lot. And absolutely loving Figma. I think they develop in a very fast pace at the moment. And the way that we will actually built interfaces will change. I absolutely love to be a UI designer back in the day when it was still pixel perfect. You're pushing things around. I loved it, but it has changed. And so we need a person that is focusing more on the actual underlying issue as a designer, as this profession will change with time. So focus on these skills of really scrutinizing the problems, understanding the motivators of your stakeholders. Why are we developing this? Why are we looking into this now? Like, what is the time and what are we trying to achieve with this? Those are the competencies that will grow even bigger in the upcoming future. And the tools, well, they will change. Miro changes, Figma changes, Framer changes. It's a tool. If you are not scared of this change, I think you have a really good starting point to still be relevant as a designer. It feels a little bit scary to say this like that, but I have been speaking to recruiters as well, and they see this change happening now already. The ball is already rolling. If you can't adapt, you will get lost in it for sure. There will, of course, be a little bit of trickling work that will still remain in the old ways, right? I'm not going to lie. People are slow, so our customers will be slow as well. But overall, the direction is forward.
The direction is forward, and we enter the new era of design and of the expectations. We already started to talk about the past of the design path, and I wonder if we can also reflect a bit on the way how a job description has changed and what's going to be in the future. I myself also work in the industry for 8 years, and I believe in the beginning what I was doing, it was so much different from what I'm doing right now. Also started with the more UI design, then added the UX design, then I have added the product understanding, and now I'm adding the business understanding and business knowledge and the industry knowledge and so on. There is also the competency of project management, of course in collaboration with the product owners fellows, and now AI, big word, hype behind that, and the scary eyes of designers when they see some cool features in the tools we use. So to me it feels like the job of being UI UX designer, product designer is getting more and more complex over the decade. Do you think it's going to be like that in the next 10 years? Would it get more complex? I know designers who code, but also are business analysts, for God's sake. Or would we get tailored in a way?
To be honest, I've thought about this question, and I would like to propose a very futuristic view of hiring for designers. I think there is the option to first completely anonymize your CV. No name, just what has been done, what was my impact, what are certifications. Really work on getting rid of this bias in the hiring processes. I see a strong move towards that. And in the job descriptions, I can honestly picture something like, we're a health tech company, this kind of stage, this is our current problem that we're working on. Those are our goals for this quarter. Can you help us solve the problem? That's it.
Yeah, to be quite factual, straight to the point. What's the problem? What's the context? And if the person profile matches, not their name and gender and so on.
I don't really care what tool you use to solve my problem. If you do card sorting, if you jump into design right away, into Figma, maybe prompt writing, I don't care. I want to see the impact. And this is very futuristic. It's not happening next week, but this is something that I could see for our industry, for design especially, to really focus on what we're good at, which is solving problems and making experiences accessible for everyone.
Okay, it's valid.
What would make you, when you read something like this, what would you feel?
That's a very good question. Comment from the observation of the job getting more complex. It means that your work every day is not monotonous. There's not going to be ordinary day of product designer as well. I also feel concerned about the uncertainty in the future, meaning that if I have to be competent in 3, 4, or 5 other roles and knowledge fields just to sustain myself on the market. That might be also quite overwhelming for designers, as we are just a human being and we still work 8 hours a day, perhaps somebody more.
Hopefully less.
But hopefully less.
We've got all the robots now.
And AI. And that's actually our also the goal, to work less but be more impactful, to enjoy our life and our work life, and maybe let it AI do some work and we can do something. So that's why when I think of that, here's the job, here's the problem, I'm a problem solver, my profile matches, I'm curious about that company, let's get together.
Yeah.
At the same time, if the job description expects from a problem solver to be a bit of a developer, to be a bit of designer and a bit of product owner, that might be a big conflict of interest, a conflict of fulfilling that expectation. Meaning that there is a reason why developers do not design, designers do not code, and product owners do not do both at the same time. And a certain profile of a person, personality, skills, and also how it matches with the need of the company. And I just wish that the company would be also quite mindful about the work day and workload, and as well their goals towards the business, and how exactly designer can help with that, so that there be a balance. Because if there is a problem, but at the same time this problem can be mindfully tackled by 2 designers, but you got the person in some way to do this job for that is for 2 people, that can also lead to the burnout or to the less outcome that you wish for.
For sure.
And that's why I'm thinking about the balance of solve the problem, but also be truthful to yourself and to your mental health, as well as to your career goals. Yeah, there is a magic word always. AI gonna take over and make it faster, bigger. You don't have to take care of that. At the same time, as designers and actually as everybody, developers, product owners, when we work with AI, we still remain in charge and of double checking what we are getting from AI. And that's going to be the part of our job. So the concern is how to balance this out, and make it the company respect limitations of our human mind and time. And as a designer, I want to get there. I want to get my hands in a good way dirty and take the task that is challenging for me a bit, but I have the potential to solve it and to try the new role or the new opportunity for me.
Yeah,
so it's a bit
absolutely
tricky.
It is tricky. As a manager, I would have to say to you, for me to be able to respect your boundaries, I need to know them. So it always comes back to communication. And when we're looking at these job descriptions, I think it is time that we really listen and talk to people. The job description is nice. We're working on this problem. And then we just invite you to a call. We have a little discussion and you say, here's how I would approach this. I expect to achieve this and that with my team or with my approach. Are we comfortable? Like, have this discussion, and then maybe you're not expected to do all of the work. Maybe there's code work involved. But like I said, from my own example, in the startup scene, you have the skills to spot the problem. You might not be the person who has to solve it, but you can communicate to me, your boss, that this is what I see, and then they can make this decision. And as a boss, you always have 3 levers. Can I solve it with money? Can I solve it with time? Or can I solve it with human resources? And I will have to pick one of them. And you present your argument, you present the problem and your solution, and then I can make a decision or empower you to take this decision yourself by providing you some resources for it, right? I hope it's going to shift towards having a discussion about these topics rather than saying you have to use this program because we have a license there.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. If you actually want the problem to be solved best, then don't dictate what to do. Let the experts do their job.
For me, what you said can also be transformed to the word of proactivity and of really scrutinizing the problem. How can I contribute to solving that, the problem, even without designing it or coding it, like we're gonna know how that problem, what category this problem belongs to: the money, time, or human resources, or maybe some combination of those. The other word can be dropped here as creativity. We come in to solve the problems creatively, not the way how it used to be solved or how other companies do that. It's a synergy of us talking and finding the solution. And the creativity and proactivity, maybe you still struggle with saying, here I'm gonna follow and here I'm gonna lead. It's still something that can be learned and also nurtured. It's just one insight that I gathered right now.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. I think this is how I personally would like to hire people. Right? I would much rather have a conversation with you and really opening up the floor, especially if we're talking about people moving into the management track. We need to make sure that we open up the field, not just for women, but make leadership accessible for everyone. Non-binary people, minority, get them in. And this is the way that I would like to hire, especially for senior and management positions, because I would much rather have a person that I can have a conversation with that maybe lacks some technical skills than the other way around. Because I can teach you these, like there are courses for it. But if we have a good communication basis, even disagree, we can have an argument, but based on facts, right? And still leave the room and say, should we grab coffee now? Like this is something that I want to have in my team, much, much rather than somebody who's really good at skill A or B, right? Makes everything more comfortable in the working field.
Now that you said that, I have a curious question. So when you hire a designer just to fulfill the job description, some companies and some leaders would be expecting them to make what they want, like work and act in order that is predictable and that it just goes hand in hand with what the company wants. You just said like it's okay also to argue, to bring the rationale and show the other options and so on, and bounce the ideas together. What would you feel when you sit in a room with a senior designer and the person would try to convince you in their own proposal, and meeting discussion would rise, the passionate discussion. And when the person acts equally, would you encourage to do that from time to time? Or are there also the times when designers should do what they are being told?
We touched upon the topic of pick your battles in terms of, let's say we're sitting in a design critique session and the scenario arises. It is not me who will make this decision because you are the experts. I am here to facilitate this discussion. I'm not here to dictate the solution. If I, however, have a strong indication that this will go either against our design principles, or your solution doesn't include a certain target group, or
company goal or product strategy.
Exactly, it's going against this, then this is an argument that we can have. And I will point this out, that here is the material that we are talking about. Those are the principles. How do you think this goes together? And I want to understand why you are so passionate about solving it in this one particular way. Why are the stakes so high that you are raising your voice, that you are maybe speaking over other team members? What is happening? Is this something that has to do with the stuff we're talking about? Is there something going on in the background with you personally? Why are we having a heated discussion that is not needed? We're talking about pixels. So I'm trying to figure out why the stakes are so high. I'm trying to point out this is our foundation of making design decisions against, right? So we always can validate our design decisions and then we can move on from there. Right? This would be the ideal approach. We are all just people. It happens that you get caught up in a discussion. That happens to all of us, but it doesn't need to dictate the outcome afterwards. We can still say, okay, this is going nowhere. Can we regroup maybe with a different group, smaller group, whatever it is? So there are always options that you can take. Yeah. It's not easy. Arguments are never easy, but in the end, this shouldn't be something that can become personal, and people attacking each other on a call is something that I'm absolutely allergic to, and I will not let this happen. And I find it unprofessional if people start attacking other people personally over work. But some people have a bad day. That happens. I'm not going to hate you afterwards, but we need to have a discussion why this has happened.
I see. You would love to learn about the motivation of a designer. So the heated discussion. This is also quite loaded topic that people do not like to bring. And if they do, that can be just behind the curtains on a lunch break or something that they do not feel well with exactly this and this. Sometimes the heated discussions can happen. Maybe the boundaries cross. If you feel in the conversation that it becomes less friendly, more loaded, is there any technique of yours or the recommendations how to react to that? Like, you can ignore that. You can also ask to change the tone or to acknowledge the problem or just to talk to a person afterwards.
I'm not sure if you did this on purpose, but the way that you phrased it already is giving me a great hint. You're saying you have your decision and you're sharing this. So there's something about the way that you already go into this design critique session. You may be conscious, maybe not conscious, are looking for confirmation. Nice. You have your proposal, you actually want a yes, but you say, here's my design, up for critique, happy to hear your thoughts, but you're not happy to hear the thoughts. Yeah. You know that this is the solution. And you have to be honest with yourself and actually acknowledge this and say, I have designed it this way because of reasons A and B. I'm looking for confirmation here today. Is there something that I might have missed? What are your perspectives on this? And really keep it or focused on the actual design and not you as a person. Right. So already before you even propose this, before the meeting even starts, think about your expectations. Am I actually open for feedback or I just want to move on? Yeah. Because then you don't need to present it at a design critique session. Yeah. But it's common practice, so you'll feel forced to, right? Yeah. Yeah. And this is something that I'm always trying to educate my designers about. Share your design process as early as possible. I know it's uncomfortable, really. Believe me, I have been there and it's still uncomfortable for me, but I try to teach myself this as well by making the documents I work on, if they're not under NDA, make them visible so other people can have a look into what is the current state. Why do I do this? Because it helps me gain a different perspective on this product that I'm working on. And this is the same for my design management work like it is for the actual product design. So the earlier you share this, the more open-minded you are and gain perspective from different angles, biases. It will make your product better because it has more than one perspective to it. In these discussions, you will get better because you learn how to communicate your expectations. You're sharing this because you share your motivators. Let's say, I've built this because we have this design principle, and this is why I designed it like this. Today I would like to hear your feedback on this component. Be specific on what you expect the other people to focus on. If there's other opinions, other voices coming in, it can also be the part of the moderator to be like, hey, Lisa wanted to focus on this component. Can we please stay on topic? Like if this is another comment, please make sure to mark it in Figma, whatever, leave a comment. And this way you can guide the discussion. All sounds very nice. In theory, it is hard work. It is practice. And this is what also distinguishes a mid or junior designer from a senior, because you've been in the trenches. You've had those horrible discussions where people attack you. Are you stupid? Why did you design it like this? Horrible. Don't do that. Really focus on what are your expectations towards it and how can we actually make this product better and not make anybody feel bad.
The design critiques is it's a good practice not to take things personally and come with the open mind and with the clear motivation what you like to get the feedback on. That's what you describe is leads to maturity. The more mature you are, the more transparent you are with the motivations for yourself, but also for the audience. It's not an easy thing to do. Have to sound balanced out and yet assertive way, respectful towards yours and respect people's boundaries. I also meant like if you have any recommendation in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I find it very, very nice to receive a meeting invite that has a clear structure. Meeting title is about this. We're meeting for this amount of time. And then you tell me, I have this topic. This is my proposal. I need your decision, yes or no, on this. Yes or no might as well be an email, not like a meeting. But if it's like a little bit more complex, I would need your advice, your insight. And to move forward, for me, I would need A and B. If you have an email invite structured like this, it's absolutely perfect. Really, you clearly communicate to me what this meeting will be about, what you present to me, and what you expect me to give you in return. So I have time to think about it on my own time. Maybe you share a link so I can have a look already. And it's absolutely clear what you want. You respect my time. You're not wasting precious meeting time with it. And this way I can give you my direction or whatever it is that you need from me much easier. This is how I try to phrase my emails, especially to C-level as well. I clearly communicate, even if it's uncomfortable. I say, this is my stand. I can't move forward without your insight, your approval. This is what I need to move forward. If I don't get this, this is what happens.
Yes, what can happen next?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't phrase it like a threat, but say, I am not shy to make this decision. I would, however, like to incorporate your view, opinion, approval for this to be not perfect, but for this to be functional, to be good, working. Yeah, that is something like expectation management, really. And it always comes down to good communication skills and really sharing what you are expecting this person to do.
Okay, yeah, that sounds doable and quite inspirational.
It does, however, it seems to be very hard. You, especially other way around, from if you get invites from C-level, they don't have that skill. They don't really care. This is something that feels very painful to admit, but many of them, they just read this and respond or send you an invite like this without thinking about their impact and their expectation towards me.
Yeah,
so
when being short on time and having less of attention and less motivation to look into that.
For some things, you just really need that person to give their yes or their approval. But for other things where its input would be valuable, I would phrase again, okay, you couldn't make it to this instance. Here's an opportunity to try again. Didn't work again. Here, I've been trying to really write this down, even though this should be a discussion between you and me. Still no answer, or still I don't get the information I need. I will make a decision because we need to make progress. In the end, it's always about moving forward step by step. And I have saved my own ass by inviting you multiple times, asking for your input. It's not coming. I will make a decision, right? And there is this certain decision paralysis or fatigue where people don't really want to take or make decisions. This is something that you don't expect in C-level, senior leadership, but it does happen and it's quite frustrating. It doesn't matter if it's because they don't have time or they don't value you or your work or your field. There are different motivators, right? But it is quite common that the scenario happens and you don't get an answer or you don't get the one you expected. I have been in the situation where I went against what was mentioned because I had a very strong case. Hey, this is something we really need to try. So I put a small team together, did this small fraction of the product and experimented, so to say, and try to let the results speak for themselves, right? It's risky, but sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness than for approval, right? As I said, take this with a pinch of salt. And sometimes you need to be a little bit more brave, right? And just do things because of your experience, because you have the data to back it up, or we just want to fail fast. We need to find out if this is a way that would work. But it's tricky, yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. That sounds like the ground of decisiveness, of courage, of proactivity, and also confidence. And I wanted to ask you this question. So the confidence and decisiveness can be a part of personality as like a natural trait, but sometimes we just lack that. And what I observe, usually women lacking those or feeling struggle with the confidence a bit more, and you can be shy when you enter the room of male-dominated industry, or having quite heated discussions with the people with the higher titles. If you want to do your job great and keep the ball rolling, you still need this confidence. It also is the part of your presentation style. And can confidence be learned and taught?
Confidence is not something where you can get a certificate. No, it is something that comes with practice. And if we're just looking at a scenario where you might feel some imposter syndrome and you have a good feeling, like when you're on your own, like, okay, I've backed my design decisions up with data, with research. You need to do this inner work that we spoke about in the beginning to gain this confidence, and ask yourself the question, what does it actually need? Like, is it external validation, or is it more research for me to say, this is the right decision? I have the proof. And for everybody, this looks different. Some people need to go in a 2-hour research. Other people need a specific person to say, this is good. You need to find out what that is for yourself. And once you know this, you can also fake it. And this is what I have been doing. I'm not saying this is a recommendation, but fake it till you make it.
That can actually be the practice up until you make it.
So it's not just me feeling this is the right decision, but it's actually backed up by real data or insights. For me, this has been the path. I'm always like leaning a little bit out too much, and then, okay, I actually have proof for this. Like, you're fine, go on. I have to tell myself this. And in leadership, and like you said, when women walk into a room and see themselves not represented at all, most of the time I'm the only woman in the leadership team as well. It's not diverse, the team, and you can just feel a certain judgment, so to say. I don't know if you see it in the camera. I'm fairly young still. This is also another judgment that people make. Like, you're in this position with this age.
Aren't you too young for that?
But it's not about that, right? It's about your personal journeys and what have you learned. If this is your goal, you want to work in management, you go work in management. So when people want to break into this area, it's important for them to see themselves represented there. So the more, as I said, we open up this field of leadership for everybody, essentially, the easier it will get for them, and the better our leadership teams will become. Essentially, the outcome for the team will be better because we have different views represented.
It sounds candid, and so far what I observed from quite confident women, people being on stage or public speaking, they will share in private conversation about their insecurities. It's not like everybody who seems so perfectly decisive and confident is like that every moment of their life. So there's something that we both share, but it doesn't mean that we have to, that we are letting concerns and fears and anxiety to block us. So what you're saying, fake it until you make it, is still quite empowering and can be adapted.
Yeah, absolutely. And you always have to think about the message that you want to get across. For me, to give an example, it is part of my to speak at either on stage or in all hands calls to hundreds, thousands of people. And it is frightening because, like, I don't want to be that person on that stage right there. But I need this message to be represented. And apparently I'm here, so I have to present this message. Yeah. It's always the motivation behind it. So, and I want to see role models on that stage that are young, that are female. I have had this chance, and now I'm going to use this chance to be that role model for somebody else. Even though it feels absolutely strange to say this out loud here, but this is how we need to start it, right? We need to have this representation, this way of thinking about, this is not about me, this is about the message, has helped me to actually go on stage and say,
and deliver and be there. And you're kind of on a mission, and your mission involves not only you, but also the other women or the minorities or your users. So you're a part of something bigger, and
you're the advocate.
Right, the advocate. Yeah. You mentioned female leadership. So while a lot of companies would have in a way gender imbalance with the represented women or the minorities. Although in Berlin it's also very cool to see how the cross-functional teams, can be super diverse, nationality, native languages, background, gender. Then have the question, rather the dilemma that I want to share with you. There is no right answer. We know what the leadership of men look like. Definitely it's individual. But is there anything that you see that female leadership can differ from the male one? And is there something that you wish that we would add to the female leadership?
I'm not really sure if I want to code this in terms of gender, really, because I don't want to say that certain attributes that I want to see are male or female. What I think we're currently lacking, especially in boardrooms, is a human perspective, this empathy perspective. Absolutely convinced, and we've seen it in prominent examples as well. Just because you care about other people doesn't make you a bad leader for a company. Yeah. It's actually the other way around. We see better results when we have a person in charge that is able to create this psychological safety, that is able to focus on other people's needs and really create this atmosphere of joint forces, bringing people together and not just egoistically focusing on one, let's say, financial goal for the company. They see the bigger picture. When I say they, I mean the people that I want to see more in that. If they're female, non-binary, whatever. I don't mind. I want to have this perspective, and I want to see us moving closer together, because what we can observe right now, especially in politics in Germany, but also in the US and in other places, is there's a lot of finger pointing and othering. The other people are doing this and it's not moving us forward. We need more we need more us moving closer to achieve something together. We've said it multiple times throughout our episode here. Communication is key, and these soft skills are becoming more important, and this is what I would like to see more of. We need to be able to use the term we rather than they in our discussions. And this will get us to great successes. I strongly believe in this. Yeah. Especially if we're looking at AI moving forward, we need to focus on us as humans and what is important to us. We need to set new standards, and we can only set standards if we have different perspectives.
Yeah, for sure. Different perspectives that can be that can allow still people to be united and moving forward. Thank you so much for that. I also not in favor of labeling certain trait or phenomena as either either female or male. It's just human, and I guess it's just the diverse sides of a human personality. And it's basically cool to have the diverse toolkit in some room to be more assertive and in some room to exercise the soft powers, and that's just the part of us as a human being. So still, since we are also moving to the end of the episode, I'd like to ask you what does the UX design mean for you? If you would describe the design meaning to yourself in 3 words, what would that be?
What does design mean for myself? I really think, and I've said it multiple times now today, it is about the people. We're designing experiences for other humans. And I see design as a way of thinking, as a really effective attitude to have to design a service, an experience, anything in life really is designed somehow, right? And when we can optimize this process of designing by incorporating other views, I strongly believe that we have an actual nice future ahead of ourselves. Topics like sustainability, for example. It is something that has been overlooked by leaders because it seems not profitable. I want design to be able to start conversations that go into this direction, that point out this is something that we want for our future. The people who design have this capability to bring important topics to the front of our discussions that we should have. I've been thinking about the 3 words in terms of design that are crucial. And the words that I chose are empathy, strategy, and impact. And this is something that you can actually apply to the whole process, from redesigning your portfolio to actually having a conversation on UN level about our actual future.
I just know that every person that works in design, there is such a special attitude towards the profession, advocacy that you want to have for an ethical consideration. So perhaps that's something that makes our responsibility bigger, but also the work quite exciting and impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. I still think it's a way of operating that can be adopted by, I would say, non-designers as well. It's almost a philosophy.
Yeah, design thinking is the way of thinking, and
exactly.
Therefore it's also a philosophy in a way. Is there anything that you like to share to our fruitful discussion?
I would say there is a hopeful future ahead of ourselves if we manage to move closer together, and instead of doing this finger pointing, this othering, think about how we want to live, work, contribute to society, sustainability topics. And I think design is a good vehicle for this.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you so much for sharing all the insights. It was great talking to you. And I hope that you liked that as well. Thanks for listening to the third episode. That was the Womenintech podcast. All these topics with women, where we inspire each other. Thank you, Isabelle.
Thank you, Lisa.